cooking from the Disney Cooking with Magic, a Century of Recipes Cookbook. And again, this cookbook is in honor of Disney's 100th anniversary, and it actually honors some of the early stuff like before Snow White, and that's what one of these recipes is today. It's called straw and hay pasta. Let's show you the picture. So this is inspired from Three Little Pigs, which again, I think was like early 1930s, like a little cartoon or short or something before Snow White. And this pasta in honor of the Three Little Pigs is like kind of like a fettuccine Alfredo, but with some other stuff in it. So you take a plain fettuccine, a spinach fettuccine, you add bacon, but the bacon is plant-based bacon. So this is a vegetarian-friendly dish. It's not vegan-friendly because there's also heavy cream and some cheese in it. And a few other things like some peas and stuff like that. But anyway, we're gonna get started in making this for dinner tonight. So here's the beginning prep. I've got my skillet that I'll make my sauce in ready to go. I put some water in a pot that I'm going to boil, and then over there towards the side you may see I've got my plant-based bacon, and I'm just cooking it according to the package directions. There was a couple options. I'm choosing the option where I can toss it into the oven. I've got some things going on my stove. I've got my noodles boiling in the water, and I keep this wooden spoon in to help it from boiling over. And then my other pan, I'm starting to make the sauce. And I started by melting some butter and then adding the cream that it calls in there. And then once that was kind of cooked but not boiling, I added in the Parmesan cheese. I'm taking my bacon, which is cooked in the oven and done, out of the oven. I'll allow it to cool for a couple minutes before I dice it up. Meanwhile, everything else continues to cook on my stovetop. Okay, we've made it to assembly time. I drained and rinsed the pasta and have it in my colander here, and now I'm about to add it into the sauce in the skillet. And I'm doing it in batches and kind of mixing it as I go, just to kind of see in case I made too much pasta, I don't want it to be too dry. Now here, what I'm doing is adding some of the water that I saved when I drained the pasta. The recipe recommends this, just to kind of add it to the sauce. If you need some help with the consistency, you can add a little bit of it. Now I'm adding in the pre-cooked vegetarian or plant-based bacon. Now I'm adding in some peas, and these are just frozen peas that I thawed according to the recipe directions. I'm just tossing everything together to get it good and mixed up. The last thing I'm throwing in this dish is some more Parmesan cheese, and I will combine that with the rest of the pasta dish. Give it one last final stir. The cheese is melted. Otherwise, this dish is done and ready to go. Review time for the straw and hay pasta. And, you know, it's basically kind of like a fettuccine Alfredo, just with a little bit of a twist on it and some different ingredients. And it was a huge hit in my house. I really enjoyed it. My husband surprised me by really liking it. He's usually not one that goes for like the Alfredo style sauces or anything like that, but he really liked this. And, you know, I was a little hesitant at first because when I first tried just the bacon by itself, you know, it's a plant-based bacon. It's not something I've really had often. I was like, I'm not sure about the flavor on this, but it worked really well in this dish. I mean, in fact, like the bites of the dish with the bacon were the best, I thought personally, of the entire dish. And as we were eating it, my husband said, you know, this would be really good too with like chicken instead, like a grilled chicken breast. And I was like, oh yeah, especially like a blackened one. I think that would be really good. So yeah, I really liked it. I think the sauce was a really great Alfredo sauce recipe and it was easy to make. And yeah, big hit, big hit. So let's get into the rankings. The first are the ingredients on a scale of 1 to 5, and that's in terms of like how difficult they are to find versus cost as well. And I'm gonna give them a 2. I don't really think anything was super hard to find. The trickiest thing to find, honestly, was the pasta noodles that said to use half the fettuccine, half spinach fettuccine, and only like one store in my town I could find had like spinach fettuccine noodles. Like a couple of them didn't have it. So they weren't super pricey or anything, but I do think you could easily make this dish with just regular fettuccine noodles if you can't find the spinach ones. I don't know if they really added much to the flavor, in my opinion. I couldn't tell a difference, but either way, it's a nice way to get some veggies into your mix too and a little less carbs. difficulty rating on a scale of 1 to 5, with 1 being easy and 5 being hard, I'm gonna also give this like a 2.5. I don't think it was super hard, but there's a lot more steps involved. So, time kind of goes in that difficulty as well. You got to make the bacon, boil the noodles, make the sauce. Honestly, none of that was difficult. The most difficult thing though is the sauce and watching it, because I was watching it on my stovetop, stirring it in the skillet, and I didn't want it to burn because I knew my noodles still had a little bit of time to cook, and I was afraid with that cream sauce, if it sat too long, it would start to burn. So when it got to like a really nice desired consistency, it was looking good, it was smelling good, I kind of would take it off the heat for a little bit, just to, I didn't let it like harden up or anything. I'd bring it back as needed, but I was just kind of watching it and taking it on and off the heat until I was ready to add the rest of the ingredients. So to me, that's the biggest challenge, is just watching that sauce and make sure it doesn't burn. And then would I make this again on a scale of 1 to 5, with 1 being never and 5 being absolutely? It's a 5. Like I said, it was a huge hit. My husband's still talking about it to this day. He really enjoyed it. I think I might try it with the chicken. I think it's going to be something that I'll make every so often because it was really, really delicious. But I will say this, didn't heat up as well. So we did have a little bit of leftovers, and the leftovers weren't as good as it fresh. But either way, a really good dish.